Alright, well, we got a different project today. My truck blew a head gasket on, I guess Wednesday night. And we're working on that. Got the carburetor off. Most of the vacuum system right there. Broke most of them lines. That's gonna be a pain. But got the carburetor off. Just about to take that manifold, whatever that thing is, off. Some kind of EGR thing. And we'll pull the spark plug wires. I'm thinking I'll just leave the distributor right there. I should be able to pull the manifold off without pulling that off. I might have to pull the smog pump. I don't think I will though. Might be kind of tight though. But yeah, it's the second cylinder back on this side has the leak, and so I'm just gonna do both cylinder heads and everything, the whole assortment. But yeah, we'll keep you updated. Alrighty, everybody, we're getting down to the good stuff now. Got the intake off. Had to pull the smog pumps, just, made it a little bit easier. Well, I shouldn't even say that. I was gonna have to pull them anyway because they mount to the cylinder head right here. So, and I'm thinking that I'm gonna pull the heads with the exhaust manifold still attached, because I don't want to be messing around with all them rusty bolts there. Not only that, you got these emissions lines, a stainless steel manifold right here, with all these rusted to hell fittings and rusted to hell bolts. There's plenty of room in here, and it might be a little bit heavy, but I'm just gonna pull the two bolts off of the downpipe there, and because they're still in good shape. Geez, there's almost no rust on them for some reason. So down in there, so I'll just pull them off as a unit. But at this point, it's time to pull the rocker covers and start pulling the rocker arms off, line them all up so don't get anything mixed up. I should say this is a remanufactured engine. It was installed in here about 10 years ago, and since the installation it hasn't had very many miles on it. So it's in, it should be in relatively good condition inside. I'm not going to go into the crankcase obviously, but I will be curious to see what the cylinder walls look like. Sure runs good. So well, of course, before it blew the head gasket. So that's the thing with remanufactured engines. You're never quite sure who did the rebuild and what kind of job they did rebuilding it. So although it might have new bearings, new rings, pistons, and things like that, valves and whatnot, but how was it assembled? It's hard to say. So even though the driver's side here does head gaskets still sealing right now, no problems, I'm gonna pull both heads and just do it from the heads up, and just so I can be sure that it's put back together correctly. So we'll come back in a minute. Alright, we're back. Got the gutter taken all the way down. Got the cylinder heads off. Unfortunately, my little scheme to pull the heads with the exhaust manifold still attached, that didn't work. Ended up the exhaust manifold was partially blocking most of the lower head bolts. But whoever assembled this engine, I gotta give them credit. They knew what anti-seize was, and they used it well on those exhaust manifold bolts. Even though they were pretty rusted and ugly, they came out without too much trouble at all. Didn't break a single one. One of them rounded off on me, but I was able to fit a smaller size socket on it after that, so worked pretty well. Let's see, I got my rockers and push rods laid out the way they came off the engine. Gotta clean them up. See, that oil's pretty nasty. Obviously pretty milky when you blow a head gasket. Also, I'm going to put new plugs in it. Rotor, distributor cap. Obviously got to change the oil twice, so, and then wires, and then belts. Changed the oil twice, got 2 filters and a whole case of oil. There's my manifolds. Do something about the studs down here. They're pretty ugly. Pull them out and put a regular bolt in there. I think I showed you the massive vacuum lines that I gotta redo. Here's the intake. Gotta wash that off. See, there was a nice mouse nest being built before I bought this truck. So, my carburetor, I'm pretty sure it's a Holly. Made by Holly for Ford, something like that. Yeah. I was gonna rebuild that while it's out, but this engine ran fine, so gonna let that go. And my cylinder heads, I have to wash them all up. The one with the one that blew the head gasket, I'm going to have to send it out and have it checked. Well, not really send it out, but take it over to a local shop, and he can check it for me while I'm there. Just check it for cracks and for straightness, make sure it's not warped. This engine didn't overheat, just intake, the head gasket failed. So take care of all that. Like I said, wash them up and everything, and go back together. Gotta get this truck running, you know. This is my my show season truck. This is how I get all my engines to the shows. This flatbed, so you know, it's April 5th or 6th or something. First show is coming up soon. I better get this thing running. Alright, we're in the process now of cleaning up the cylinder heads. Get them looking pretty good there. Just using a kind of like a Scotch Brite attachment on the old air grinder here. Doesn't take off any metal, and it kind of takes a while to get some of the tougher stuff. I've scraped this with a gasket scraper already. Got most of the big chunks off, but some of the hard areas where it's really kind of ground in there takes a little working, but comes off. You don't want to take any metal off, so it's better to just take your time and get it clean with one of these little Scotch Brite wheel things. But yeah, it's coming along. Got a lot more to do. Alrighty, busy day today. But at this point, Saturday night, we're ready to start reassembly. I cleaned up the light here. Cleaned up the block, the deck, ready for the new gasket. Cylinders look alright. Let's see. Definitely not real high mileage, but that's all done there. Look go over to here. Got my rockers all washed. All that nasty oil off of them. They're ready to go back on. Exhaust manifolds. They're pretty well cleaned up. Carb, didn't touch that. All the junk has to go back on. One pump, two small pumps. Old distributor. Got the intake. That's all polished up, ready to go back together. And then the cylinder heads back here have been all washed up. Gasket surface is cleaned. Let's see if I can. Ready to go back together.